Have you ever just stared at a blank page or a new project or maybe even an empty gym and you just feel totally paralyzed? Well, we're going to dive into exactly that, the art of just starting and how to get over that incredibly frustrating feeling of being stuck right at the very beginning.
Okay, let's kick things off with a scenario that I think is going to feel a little too familiar. It's that feeling of facing this pure, empty potential and the massive pressure that comes right along with it.
I mean, this is it, right? This quote comes from someone who literally had a document open just staring them in the face every single day for 3 whole weeks. And nothing. Just that blinking cursor in a sea of white, basically holding all their ambition hostage. And you know the excuses we tell ourselves. They always sound so reasonable, don't they? We're not procrastinating. No, we're just waiting. Waiting for the perfect moment, for that big lightning bolt of inspiration, that flash of genius where we know exactly what to do. The thing is, that moment almost never shows up. It's such a universal experience, isn't it? And we do this with everything, not just work. We plan to start that business, or learn guitar, or get in shape, and then we just wait. So what are we really waiting for? So let's get into the real psychology behind why we freeze up like this. It turns out all that time we spend watching tutorials and reading articles, it isn't really preparation. It's actually something else entirely. And here it is. It's a simple distinction, but man, it is powerful. We tell ourselves, I'm just preparing, gathering all the info to make sure it's perfect. But the reality, the gut level truth, we're just scared. And what are we so afraid of? Well, it's usually these three things. The fear that our first try is just going to be awful, the fear that other people will see it and think we're a total idiot, and maybe the biggest one of all, the fear that we'll prove to ourselves that we have absolutely no clue what we're doing. So to avoid all those crummy feelings, we just put it off. We wait for this future version of ourselves, this kind of phantom person who's somehow smarter, braver, and just more ready than we are right now. The big problem? That person is imaginary. They're never ever going to show up. So this brings us to this amazing breakthrough realization that just flips the whole problem right on its head. If waiting around for clarity doesn't work, then what does? Well, the answer is kind of wonderfully counterintuitive. Action creates clarity. It's this simple, powerful idea that you don't figure stuff out by sitting around thinking about it. You figure it out by getting your hands dirty, by making a mess, by just doing. See, understanding isn't what you need before you act, it's the result of your action. Think about it like learning to draw. You could study anatomy books for 6 months straight, but you'll only actually learn how to draw hands by drawing hundreds of terrible, clunky, weird-looking hands until, one day, hey, they start to look great. The knowing is in the doing. The philosopher, Soren Kierkegaard, absolutely nailed this. He said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. The path only gets clear when you look back at the steps you've already taken. And that's our fundamental mistake right there. We're all standing at the starting line, demanding this perfect, detailed map before we'll even take a single step. But life and learning, it just doesn't work that way. The map is something you create by taking the journey. So this brings us to the biggest emotional hurdle we have to jump over. We have to be okay with the feeling of being a beginner, which, let's be honest, often feels a lot like humiliation. Let's just say it. Just get it out in the open. Your first draft, your first workout, your first try at anything, it's probably going to be bad. It'll be awkward and clumsy and nowhere near as good as the perfect version you've got in your head. But, and this is the most important part, that feeling, that initial suckiness is not a warning sign that you should stop. It's not a red flag telling you you're on the wrong path or that you don't have what it takes. This is the absolute core of it. That feeling of being awkward, of being an amateur, of not really knowing what you're doing. That is the feeling of learning. That's the texture of growth. Feeling like an imposter isn't proof that you're a fraud. It's proof that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Every single expert you look up to felt that exact same way when they were starting. They just didn't let that feeling stop them. Okay, so this all leads to one clear, powerful, and Yeah, maybe a little terrifying conclusion. It's a final command that just cuts through all the excuses and all of the fear. Remember that blank document from the beginning? That person finally just started typing anything. They said it was bad, really bad. But the moment their fingers started moving, ideas started to flow. Turns out the blank page was only scary when it was blank.
Because here's the hard truth. While you're preparing and waiting for the perfect time, nothing is actually getting done. The book isn't writing itself. The business isn't building itself. That skill you want isn't developing. The only thing that creates results is motion.
So the final takeaway is this simple. Start today. Start right now. Don't wait until you feel ready or inspired or unafraid. Start badly. Start messily. In fact, start especially if your first attempt is going to be terrible, because a terrible start is infinitely better than no start at all. And that leaves us with just one question. The perfect plan is never gonna arrive. The fear, it might never totally go away. So, knowing all that, what will you finally, imperfectly, begin?